The message arrived at exactly midnight, Earth Standard Time. Park Jisoo read it 3 times before she believed what she was seeing. The Galactic Council had summoned humanity to appear before them. Not invited, summoned. Like a child called to the principal's office, Jisoo stood by the window of her small apartment on Station Harmony, watching the endless stars spin slowly past. She was 42 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes that had seen too many diplomatic failures. For 15 years, she had served as Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. For 15 years, she had smiled at creatures who looked at humans, the way humans once looked at insects. The council chamber was located on a massive space station called the Gathering. It floated at the exact center of known space, neutral ground where 47 species came together to decide the fate of billions. Jisoo had been there many times. She had never been treated with respect. Her shuttle docked 3 hours later. 2 guards escorted her through the winding corridors. They were Meraki, tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. They did not speak to her. They did not even look at her. To them, she was nothing. The council chamber was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats rising up in circles around a central platform. Representatives from every major species sat in their designated areas. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some were made of pure light. Some looked like nightmares given form. All of them were watching her. Jisoo walked to the speaker's platform alone. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. She kept her back straight and her face calm. She had learned long ago that showing fear only made things worse. High Speaker Vrel sat on an elevated throne at the far end. He was an insectoid creature, nearly 3 meters tall, with a hard shell the color of dried blood. His compound eyes reflected the light of 1,000 screens. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked together in a rhythm that the translation device turned into words. "The human representative will now hear the judgment of the council," Vrel announced. His voice carried no emotion. It never did. Jisoo did not react. Judgment, not discussion. Not negotiation, judgment. They had already decided something without her. The Meraki representative stood. His name was Vorith, and he commanded the largest military force in the galaxy. His species had conquered 12 worlds before joining the council. They had never lost a war. 3 cycles ago, Vorith began, the humans established an illegal colony in the Kepler system. This system belongs to the Meraki Dominion by ancient right. We have tolerated this invasion long enough. The council has voted. The humans will remove their settlement immediately. Jisoo felt her heart beating faster, but she kept her voice steady. The Kepler system has been empty for 10,000 years. Our surveys found no claim markers, no settlements, no evidence of any presence. Irrelevant, Vorith snapped. The system was designated as Meraki expansion territory before your species learned to make fire. Your ignorance does not excuse your crime. Several delegates made sounds of agreement. The Kreth clicked their claws. The Volani hummed in their deep voices. The message was clear. Humanity was wrong simply because the council said so. Jisoo tried again. There are over 2 million people living on Kepler Prime now. Families, children. We have built cities, farms, hospitals. You cannot simply tell them to leave. Rel leaned forward. His eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. We are not telling them. We are ordering them. The council has also decided that humanity will surrender all terraforming equipment to the Meraki as compensation. Additionally, Earth will grant the Dominion full mineral rights to your asteroid belt for the next 500 years. The words hit Jisoo like physical blows. The asteroid belt was humanity's primary source of rare metals. Without it, Earth's economy would collapse. This was not justice. This was theft. This is unacceptable, Jisoo said. Humanity has done nothing wrong. We colonized an empty system in good faith. We have followed every council regulation. We have paid every tax, attended every meeting, obeyed every law you created without our input. And this is how you treat us? Vrel made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. You speak of treatment? Humanity has been a provisional member of this council for 300 years. You have no voting rights. You have no military presence. You have nothing except what we allow you to have. Be grateful we permit you to exist at all." The chamber erupted in sounds of approval. Jisoo looked around at the faces watching her. Some showed contempt. Some showed amusement. A few showed something that might have been pity. None showed support. She thought about the 2 million people on Kepler Prime. She thought about the families who had saved for decades to afford passage to a new world. She thought about the children who had been born there, who had never seen Earth, who knew no other home. The council wanted to throw them out like garbage. She thought about the 17 human ships that had vanished near Meraki space over the past year. The council had called them accidents. Everyone knew they were not accidents. She thought about 300 years of smiles. 300 years of patience. 300 years of waiting for the galaxy to see humanity as equals. It had never happened. It was never going to happen. How long do we have to respond? Jisoo asked. Her voice was very quiet now. Vrel clicked his mandibles again. You do not have a response. This is not a negotiation. The council has voted. You will comply. Your ships will begin evacuation within 10 cycles, or we will remove your people by force. Jisoo was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was a strange smile. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Valith ambassador, a being of crystalline light named Shimmer of Truth, pulsed with sudden uncertainty. I request a brief recess, Jisoo said. I need to consult with Earth before we proceed. Varel waved one of his many limbs dismissively. You have 1 standard hour. Use it to accept your fate. There is no other option. Jisoo bowed her head slightly. Thank you for your generosity, High Speaker. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the silence once again. But this time, something was different. This time, she was not walking away in defeat. She was walking toward a communication terminal. She was walking toward war. The communication room was small and dark. Jisoo locked the door behind her and activated the secure channel. The screen flickered once, twice, and then showed a face she knew well. Fleet Admiral Kong Do-yeon looked back at her with steady eyes. Do-yeon was 60 years old, the gray hair cut short and a scar running down his left cheek. He had earned that scar 30 years ago, fighting pirates in the outer colonies. He was the most decorated officer in Earth's history, though very few people knew it. His existence was classified. His fleet was a secret, Ambassador, he said. His voice was calm, but Jisoo could see the tension in his shoulders. I watched the council session. I take it things went as we expected, Jisoo replied. They want everything. Kepler Prime, the terraforming equipment, the asteroid belt. They are not even pretending to be fair anymore. Do-yeon nodded slowly. The Meraki have been planning this for decades. We have intercepted communications going back 40 years. They have always intended to reduce humanity to a servant species. The council just gave them permission. Jisoo sat down heavily in a chair. The weight of what was coming pressed down on her like a physical force. How many ships did we lose? Really? 17 confirmed? Over 4,000 crew members. The Meraki captured them, extracted information, and then destroyed the vessels to hide the evidence. Do-yeon's jaw tightened. They have been testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses. They think they have found enough in the fleet. Is it ready? For a moment, something like a smile crossed Do-yeon's face. Ambassador, the fleet has been ready for 200 years. Jisoo closed her eyes and let out a long breath. 200 years. That was how long humanity had been building in secret. From the very beginning, when the first human ships reached the stars and encountered the Council, Earth's leaders had understood the truth. The galaxy was not a friendly place. Survival required more than diplomacy. Survival required power. So while human ambassadors smiled and bowed and accepted insults with grace, human engineers worked in hidden facilities. They studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They learned from it. They improved upon it. They developed weapons and ships that no other species had ever imagined. The hidden fleet was stationed in the Oort cloud, far from prying eyes. 340 dreadnoughts, each one 5 kilometers long, 12,000 support vessels, millions of trained soldiers, all of it invisible to the Council's sensors. All of it waiting for the day when humanity would finally need it. "Tell me about the enemy," Jisoo said. Doyon pulled up a display. "The Moraki have approximately 8,000 warships. The Council's combined fleet adds another 20,000. On paper, they outnumber us nearly 100 to 1. On paper, Doyon agreed. Ow! But the Moraki have not fought a real war in 600 years. The Council has not faced a serious military threat in over a millennium. Their tactics are outdated. Their crews are untested. They've grown fat and lazy, believing that their technology makes them invincible." He changed the display. Now it showed a human dreadnought, sleek and deadly, covered in weapons that looked nothing like anything the Council had ever built. "They do not know about slipspace technology," Doyon continued. "Our ships can jump within the battlefield itself. We can appear behind an enemy vessel, fire, and vanish before they can even target us. Their weapons cannot hit what they cannot track, and our crews. Every officer in the Hidden Fleet has trained in combat simulations since childhood. Every soldier knows that this day would come. They are ready, Ambassador. The question is whether you are ready to give the order." Jisoo opened her eyes and stared at the screen. She thought about her grandmother, who had survived the last great war on Earth. She thought about her father, who had worked himself to death building the first colony ships. She thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of a better future. The Council wanted to take that future away. They wanted to chain humanity to a life of servitude. They wanted to steal human homes, human resources, human dignity, and they expected humanity to simply accept it. "What happens if we lose?" Jisoo asked quietly. Doyon was silent for a moment. "Then humanity dies. The Council will destroy Earth as an example to any other species that might think about resisting. Our children will be slaves. Our history will be erased. Everything we have ever built will be forgotten. And if we win, then everything changes. The balance of power in this galaxy shifts forever. Other species will see that the Council can be challenged. Some will join us, some will stay neutral, but none of them will ever look at humanity the same way again." Jisoo stood up. She looked at her hands. They were steady. She'd expected them to shake. "You know what I have to do?" she said. "No. This will start a war. Millions will die. Maybe billions. Yes, there's no going back after this." Doyon leaned forward. His eyes were burning with something that Jisoo recognized. It was the same fire she felt in her own heart. "Ambassador, there is no going back regardless. The Council made their decision when they voted to destroy us. The only question is whether we die on our knees or fight on our feet." Jisoo thought about 2 million people on Kepler Prime. She thought about children playing in parks on a world they called home. She thought about their faces when Moraki soldiers came to drag them away. She thought about 17 ships and 4,000 crew members who would never come home. She thought about 300 years of patience finally coming to an end. "Prepare the fleet," she said. "When I give the signal, show them what humanity really is." Doyon saluted. For the first time in their conversation, he allowed himself to smile. "It will be my honor, Ambassador." The screen went dark. Jisoo stood alone in the communication room for a long moment. Then she straightened her uniform, adjusted her collar, and walked toward the door. Her hour was almost over. The Council was waiting. They had no idea what was coming. The Council chamber fell silent as Jisoo entered. Every eye, sensor, and optical organ turned to watch the small human female walk down the long aisle toward the speaker's platform. Many delegates were already preparing their final demands. Some were discussing how to divide humanity's resources among themselves. None of them expected anything other than complete surrender. Jisoo walked slowly. She kept her eyes forward and her back straight. With each step, she felt the weight of 40 billion humans pressing on her shoulders. With each step, she came closer to changing history forever. High Speaker Varel watched her approach with something like boredom. "The human representative has returned," he announced. "I trust you have prepared Earth's acceptance of our terms." Jisoo reached the platform and turned to face the assembled delegates. She took a deep breath. The air was cold and smelled faintly of chemicals. Different species required different atmospheres to survive. I have consulted with Earth, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. The translation devices carried her words to every corner of the chamber. I have received my instructions. Voreth, the Meraki commander, leaned forward eagerly. His forearms were folded across his broad chest. Then speak. Tell us when your people will begin evacuation. Jisoo looked at him. She looked at his gray skin and his cold eyes and his confident smile. She thought about the 4,000 humans his forces had killed. She thought about the families who would never see their loved ones again. 300 years ago, she began, humanity reached the stars. We were young, we were curious. We were excited to meet other intelligent beings. We thought we were joining a community of equals. Vrel made an impatient sound. We do not need a history lesson. Jisoo ignored him. Instead, we found a galaxy ruled by fear. We found species who had forgotten how to cooperate, who only understood power and domination. We found a council that pretended to represent justice, but actually served only the strong. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. No one had ever spoken to the council like this. We adapted, Jisoo continued. We smiled when you insulted us. We bowed when you humiliated us. We obeyed every law you created, even when those laws were designed to keep us weak. For 300 years, we were patient. Patience born of weakness, Voreth laughed. Your species has no military worth mentioning. Your technology is primitive. You survive only because we permit it. Jisoo turned to face him directly. See our patience as weakness because you cannot imagine any other explanation. You see our restraint as inability because you have never chosen to restrain yourselves. You look at humanity and see a species that is too foolish to fight back. She paused. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the environmental systems seemed to have gone quiet. You are wrong. Jisoo reached up and adjusted her uniform. For the first time, the delegates noticed the insignia on her collar. It was not a diplomatic symbol. It was a military rank marker. She was not just an ambassador. She was a commander. The Galactic Council has demanded that we abandon our homes, she said. You have stolen our ships. You have killed our people. You have voted to reduce humanity to slavery without even giving us the courtesy of a voice. And now you expect us to simply accept this fate. Her voice grew harder. You have made a critical error. You assumed that because we smiled, we had no teeth, because we traded, we could not fight, because we were young, we were foolish. She looked around the chamber at the 47 species, who had spent 3 centuries treating humanity like dirt. You were wrong about all of it. Is this some kind of performance? Vrel asked. His mandibles clicked in what might have been confusion. What exactly do you think you were doing? Jisoo straightened to her full height, was smaller than almost everyone in the chamber. But in that moment, she seemed to tower over them all. On behalf of the United Earth nations and all human beings everywhere, she said, I hereby declare a state of war against the Meraki Dominion and any council member species that supports their aggression against humanity. For 3 heartbeats, there was absolute silence. Then Vrel laughed. It was an ugly, clicking sound that echoed through the chamber. Other delegates joined him. Soon the entire council was making sounds of amusement. The Meraki were slapping their arms together in their version of applause. 1 species against 47, Vrel finally managed to say. Your entire fleet numbers perhaps 50 vessels. We command millions. This is not bravery. This is insanity. Jisoo smiled. It was the same smile she had shown earlier, the one that had unsettled so many delegates. Admiral Kong? Every screen in the council chamber flickered. The images of distant stars were replaced by a live feed from the edge of the solar system. At first, the delegates did not understand what they were seeing. Then the recognition began to spread through the chamber like a virus. Ships. Thousands of ships. Emerging from what appeared to be empty space, their engines blazing with blue fire. Dreadnoughts 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that no species had ever seen before. Support vessels, carriers, destroyers, all arranged in perfect formation. An armada that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. 340 dreadnoughts, Jisoo said quietly. 12,000 Upport vessels. 20 million trained soldiers. All built in secret over 2 centuries while we smiled and bowed and let you believe we were harmless. The laughter had stopped. Varel was frozen in his seat, his compound eyes fixed on the screen. Vorith had risen to his feet, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. You have 47 species, Jisoo continued. We have 40 billion humans who just learned that you threatened their children. I strongly suggest you reconsider your position. Shimmer of Truth, the Velith ambassador, pulsed with bright light. How is this possible? The crystalline being asked. We have monitored human space for centuries. We would have detected construction on this scale, would you? Jisoo asked. You never bothered to look closely at us. We were primitives, after all. Not worth the attention. You saw what you expected to see, and we made sure you never expected to see anything important. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates were shouting in a dozen different languages. Some were calling for immediate attacks. Some were demanding negotiations. Some were simply trying to flee. Jisoo stood calmly in the center of the storm. She had delivered her message. The rest was up to Admiral Kang and the Hidden Fleet. Humanity was done being patient. Now, the galaxy would. Learn what happened when you pushed humans too far. The chaos in the council chamber lasted for nearly an hour. Delegates screamed at each other, at Jisoo, at the screen still showing the massive human fleet. Security forces rushed in but had no idea what to do. No one had ever declared war in the council chamber before. There was no protocol for this. Jisoo stood perfectly still through all of it. Her deputy, Yoon Minji, had appeared at her side minutes after the declaration. Mingi was younger than Jisoo, with sharp eyes and a mind like a computer. She had spent 20 years in human intelligence services before joining the diplomatic corps. Now she moved through the crowd, distributing data chips to every delegation that would accept them. What is this? The Kreth ambassador demanded, holding up one of the chips. Evidence, Mingi replied calmly. Records of Meraki attacks on human vessels. Intercepted communications proving the Council planned to reduce humanity to resource species status. Recordings of secret meetings between Meraki commanders discussing how to divide Earth's assets after our subjugation. The Kreth plugged the chip into a display device. Within seconds, his shell had gone pale with shock. Similar reactions spread through the chamber as more delegates reviewed the information. This cannot be genuine, someone shouted. Verify it yourself, Minji said. Use your own systems. The encryption codes are authentic. The voice patterns match. The timeline is consistent with publicly known events. The Meraki have been planning humanity's destruction for decades, and many of you helped them. Shruth had been reviewing the data as well. Now the Velith ambassador floated to the center of the chamber, their crystalline body pulsing with agitated light. Did not know, Shimmer of Truth said. The translation device conveyed deep distress in the words. My people voted to support the Meraki resolution because we were told it was a simple territorial dispute. We were not informed of these attacks. We were not told about your people being killed. The Velith turned to face the Meraki delegation. You lied to the council. You manipulated us into supporting your conquest. Vorith stood up, his gray face twisted with rage. The humans are our enemies. They have always been our enemies. Their weakness was an invitation to take what should rightfully be ours. 17 ships, Jisoo said quietly. The chamber fell silent. 4,000 crew members. Engineers, scientists, traders, people who had families waiting for them. You killed them all, and you expected us to do nothing. Orith sneered. What you expected does not matter. What matters is power. We have it, you do not. Your hidden fleet is impressive, but it cannot defeat the combined might of the galaxy. As if in answer, the screens flickered again. This time they showed a different location, near the human colony at Proxima Station. A Meraki battle group had arrived, 200 warships strong. They had come to intimidate humanity into backing down. They had found something unexpected. Rear. Admiral Beek Soyan commanded the 7th Human Expeditionary Force. She was 45 years old. With a reputation for creative tactics and absolute ruthlessness, Her force consisted of just 30 ships. But they were not ordinary ships. The Meraki commander sent a message demanding immediate surrender. Soyen's response was to cut communications and begin her attack. The council watched in stunned disbelief as the battle unfolded. Human ships vanished and reappeared across the battlefield, never staying in one place for more than a few seconds. They emerged behind Meraki vessels, fired precise volleys at critical systems, and disappeared before the enemy could respond. The Meraki weapons were powerful, but they were designed to hit targets that stayed in one place. They tracked trajectories, predicted movement, calculated firing solutions. None of that worked against ships that could jump through slipspace mid-dash battle. In 11 minutes, it was over. 28 Meraki warships drifted dead in space, their crews killed or captured. The rest were fleeing at maximum speed, broadcasting desperate calls for help. Human losses were to ships, both destroyed by a weapons configuration that had been unexpected but was now already analyzed and countered. Soyen's voice came through the speakers, calm and professional. Proxima Station is secure. Enemy forces are in full retreat, awaiting further orders. The silence in the council chamber was absolute. Vorith was staring at the screen with an expression that Jusu had never seen on a Meraki face before. It took her a moment to recognize it. Fear. The Meraki commander was afraid. "This changes nothing," he said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "We will simply send more ships. We will overwhelm you with numbers." Admiral Kong's face appeared on the main screen. "Supreme Commander Vorith," he said politely, "you may certainly attempt that strategy. However, I should inform you that similar engagements are currently taking place at 7 other locations. So far, Meraki forces have lost 112 ships. Human losses total for vessels." Pause to let that sink in. "At this rate of exchange, you will run out of ships in approximately 3 months. We will lose less than 1% of our fleet. I suggest you consider whether your conquest is worth the complete destruction of the Meraki Dominion." Vorith opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Vrel rose from his throne. The High Speaker looked older than he had an hour ago. His movements were slow, uncertain. "This session is suspended," he announced. "The Council must deliberate. Ambassador Park, your people will refrain from further military action while we discuss our response." Jisoo shook her head. "No." The single word echoed through the chamber. "No," Vrel repeated, as if he could not believe what he was hearing. "You had 300 years to treat humanity fairly," Jisoo said. "You chose not to. You had the chance to prevent this war. You chose not to. You do not get to pause the consequences of your actions while you figure out how to save yourselves." She turned to address the entire chamber. "Any species that wishes to declare neutrality may do so now. Any species that wishes to ally with humanity may do so now. Any species that stands with the Meraki will share their fate. You have until tomorrow to decide." Then she walked out of the chamber, leaving 47 species to contemplate the end of everything they thought they knew. By morning, 12 species had declared neutrality. 3 had requested alliance with humanity. The Velith were among them. The war had barely begun, and the galaxy was already changing. 6 months had passed since the declaration of war. 6 months of battles, negotiations, and revelations that had shaken the galaxy to its foundation. The Meraki Dominion had surrendered. Unconditionally on the first day of the 5th month, their military was shattered. Their economy was collapsing. Their population had begun to revolt against the leaders who had brought such destruction upon them. Supreme Commander Vorith had been executed by his own people, blamed for starting a war that could never be won. The final battle had taken place above the Meraki homeworld. Admiral Kong had positioned the human fleet in orbit, weapons armed and ready. The entire planet waited for annihilation. Every species in the galaxy expected humanity to burn the Meraki civilization to ashes. It never happened. Instead, Jusu had broadcast a message to the terrified population below. "We did not want this war," she said. "You were manipulated by leaders who cared more about power than about your lives. We will not punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. Surrender your military forces, accept humanitarian oversight, and your world will remain intact. The Meraki surrendered within hours. Their people wept with relief. Their children would live. Their cities would stand. Humanity had every reason to destroy them and had chosen mercy instead. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Now, Jisoo stood once again in the council chamber. But everything had changed. The seating arrangement was different. The atmosphere was different. She was different. 23 species had formally allied with humanity during the war. Another 15 had declared strict neutrality and refused to support the Meraki. Only 9 had actively fought against Earth, and most of those had surrendered after the first major defeats. The old council was dead. Something new was being born. High Speaker Varel still occupied his elevated throne, but he shared it now with 2 others. Shimmer of Truth floated on his left, representing the species that had chosen to stand with humanity. And on his right sat Park Jisoo, representing Earth and its allies. The Galactic Triumvirate. 3 powers, 3 perspectives, 3 votes on every major decision. It was not perfect. It was not even close to perfect. But it was better than what had come before. Jisoo rose to address the assembly. The delegates watched her with expressions ranging from respect to fear to genuine admiration. She was no longer the ignored representative of a primitive species. She was one of the 3 most powerful beings in known space. 6 months ago, she began, I stood in this chamber and declared war. I did so because humanity had no other choice. We had been pushed to the edge of extinction. Our people had been killed. Our homes had been threatened. Our children had been endangered. We responded the only way we could. She paused to look around at the assembled species. Some had been enemies. Some had been allies. All of them were listening. But humanity did not want war. We never wanted war. For 300 years, we reached out with open hands. We traded. We explored. We learned. We hoped that someday the galaxy would see us as equals. Her voice grew softer. That day has finally come, but not in the way we imagined. We have earned respect through victory in battle. We have demonstrated power through superior technology. But I hope that is not all you have learned about humanity. Jisoo thought about the Meraki homeworld, still intact, still populated, still alive. She thought about the prisoners of war who had been treated fairly and released. She thought about the reconstruction aid that human ships were delivering to planets damaged by the fighting. We could have destroyed the Meraki, she said. We had the power. We had the justification. Every law of war would have permitted us to wipe them from existence. We chose not to. We chose mercy. We chose to give our enemies a chance to become something better. She straightened her shoulders. That is what humanity is. We are not defined by our weapons or our technology. We are defined by our choices. We choose to protect our families with everything we have. We choose to remember our friends and our enemies. And we choose, when possible, to offer hope instead of despair. Shimmer of Truth pulsed with warm light. The Velith people are honored to stand beside humanity, the crystalline being said. We have learned much in these 6 months. We have learned that strength and kindness are not opposites. We have learned that mercy can be more powerful than destruction. We have learned that we were wrong about many things. Even Vrel spoke, his mandibles clicking in a slower, more thoughtful rhythm than before. The insectoid species watched humanity for 3 centuries and saw only weakness. We were fools. True strength is not measured in violence alone. It is measured in restraint, in wisdom, in the courage to be better than your circumstances demand. He turned to face Jisoo directly. Ambassador Park, on behalf of my people, I offer our apology. We treated humanity with contempt. We supported those who would have destroyed you. We were wrong. Jisoo nodded slowly. Apology accepted, High Speaker. Let us move forward together. The chamber filled with sounds of approval. Not unanimous, but widespread. The old order was truly dead. The new order was just beginning. Later that evening, Jisoo stood on the observation deck of the gathering, watching the stars spin past. Admiral Kung appeared beside her, still wearing his fleet uniform, looking tired but satisfied. "It is done," he said quietly. "The fleet is standing down. Our people are safe." Jisoo smiled. "For now, you think there will be more wars? I think there will always be conflicts. That is the nature of intelligent beings. But perhaps now, the galaxy will think twice before threatening humanity. Perhaps now we can build something lasting." Kong was silent for a moment. Then he laughed softly. "Do you remember what you said to me the day you gave the order? You asked what would happen if we lost. I remember. Told you that humanity would die. Our children would be slaves. Our history would be erased." He shook his head in wonder. "Instead, we are here. We are free. We are stronger than we have ever been." Jisoo looked out at the endless stars. Somewhere out there, human children were playing on Kepler Prime, unaware of how close they had come to losing everything. Somewhere out there, ships were carrying supplies to rebuild damaged worlds. Somewhere out there, species that had once been enemies were learning to see humanity in a new light. "We survived," she said. "But more importantly, we stayed true to who we are. We fought when we had to fight. We showed mercy when we could show mercy. We protected our own without becoming monsters." She turned to face Kang. "That is what matters. Not the victories. Not the power. The choices we made when we had all the power in the galaxy." Kong saluted her, a gesture of deep respect. "It has been an honor, Ambassador." "The honor was mine, Admiral." They stood together in silence, watching the stars. The war was over. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in 300 years, humanity faced that future as equals. No, not as equals, as leaders, and across the galaxy on 1,000 different worlds. Beings of every shape and form looked up at the sky and thought about the strange species from a small blue planet. The species that had hidden its strength for centuries. The species that had struck with devastating force when threatened. The species that had offered mercy when vengeance was expected. Humanity had announced itself to the universe. The universe would never forget.